right, looks like we're live. If you can hear me, please let me know. It looks like everything is good on my end, but sometimes I forget to take myself off of mute. So my name is Kayla Cox, and I am the owner of this channel, 6 Miles to Supper. And this is the Intermittent Fasting live Q&A. So if you have questions about intermittent fasting, weight loss, walking 6 miles a day, any of that stuff, you can pop it into the comments below and I will answer it to the best of my ability. I've lost 80 pounds with intermittent fasting. To give you an idea of how I did that, in case you're new to the channel, I practiced intermittent fasting 6 days a week. I took the day off on Sunday, so in other words, no fasting at all in that day. During the week when I would do intermittent fasting, I would have coffee with half and half in my fasting window, but otherwise I did not eat. But at the eating window, I ate whatever I wanted. So I don't limit carbs. I don't limit dessert or anything like that. I just sit down and eat. Generally, I eat 1 meal a day, OMAD. That is what I ended up liking the best. Although I did have results with 16:8, 18:6. It was just that as I practiced intermittent fasting more and more, I liked the longer fasting window. I found I could be a lot more productive and that kind of thing. So, so I have this YouTube channel. I also have a website, 6milestosupper.com, where you can find lots of information about intermittent fasting. There are some freebies. If you go to, I'll put that in the chat, 6milestosupper.com/freebies, because that has some different downloads that you can, if you like worksheets and stuff like that, you can check those out. I have a weight tracking spreadsheet that I use, which I found helpful, and lots of other things, goal setting worksheets, just things like that. Let's see what else. I have a podcast that you can find on your favorite podcast player. You can also watch some of the episodes on here on YouTube. I've started recording myself, recording the podcast and making it so like a video podcast. So check those out. Let's see what else. I think that does it. Oh, just to kind of let you know my timeline, I started out at 222.2 pounds, and that I lost the initial 65 pounds by the end of 2016, and I maintained that for about a year, and then I lost some more weight. I lost about another 15 pounds, and I got down into the 140s, and I've been maintaining in the 140s since that time, which was the end of 2018. So let's get started with some questions. Captain Chris Abdo said, I started intermittent fasting 3 weeks ago and lost around 7 pounds. I've been doing 16:8 and eating 2 meals per day, definitely sleeping better, and the acid reflux is gone. Well, that's great. You didn't have a question there. It says is, so if you're still in here and you meant to ask a question after that, please pop it in the chat and I'll get to it. But that's great. Congratulations on losing 7 pounds. That's a pretty good clip too. That's over 2 pounds a week, which I always lost about a pound a week. That was the fastest I lost was 1 pound per week on average, except for when I got down to the normal BMI. Once I started closing in on that, it was a third of a pound a week. That second bout of weight loss where I lost 15 more pounds, a third of a pound a week. So very, very slow, but it did happen. So congrats, Captain Chris. Let's see, foxbod.com, I guess, or foxbod.com, ask, what is your eating window? Okay, so when I was losing weight, because I think that's usually what people are most concerned with, but I'll tell you what I also do in maintenance. So I started out, so 2015, that was when I started intermittent fasting. I lost about 15 pounds that year, but I was not being consistent. I was working out really hard, but I was not being consistent with intermittent fasting. I was quitting a lot. I was changing what I was doing all the time. And so I wasn't, even that year, I would say the most I did that first year, I think I did a 14-hour fast, but I kept stopping at a 14-hour fast and making that the maximum, because I had read this article somewhere along the way that said, oh, women shouldn't do longer than a 14-hour fast. And I started to, after a while, I started to think, well, I feel really, really good. And I thought that, maybe it wouldn't be too bad to do like a 16-hour fast. And so by 2016, I realized, because I had injured my back and I couldn't do the heavy lifting and the high intensity workouts that I had been doing, I was just walking, and I was like, I knew that I needed to focus on my eating. And that was really what started to move the needle. So so by the beginning of 2016, I was at like probably about a 16.8. And then, like I said, I started pushing it out. I was like, I did a 16.8 for a while, and I was like, I'm going to push it to an 18.6. I was feeling so good. Like I felt better and better. And so eventually I was like at a 24, and I thought, this is pretty interesting. My kids got a stomach virus though. And, I was like really nervous. I didn't want to eat. And so like for several days, I didn't eat until like supper time, 1 meal a day. And I really was enjoying that pattern of eating, as opposed to like having a 4-hour window. And my weight dropped. I think it was like 5-point-something pounds that week. I was like, whoa, what in the world? Like, this is crazy. So I Googled, like, can you eat 1 meal a day? Like, are you going to survive? And it said that it was fine. Like, I found an article about the OMAD diet, and the way they spelled it and everything, I thought that they were like talking about like nomads. Like, I don't know, like the way it was capitalized, I didn't know that it stood for 1 meal a day. Eventually, I learned that that's what it was talking about, 1 meal a day. But anyway, so that was, so 2016, by April of 2016, that's when I went to OMAD. And I did that for the rest of the year. Then by November, I was down to like 158 or so, which was, by that time, when I was down to 158, I was almost in the normal BMI. Like, I was at slightly overweight by like 4 pounds, which, I know everybody talks about the BMI is like, well, that's just kind of an arbitrary. You're absolutely right. It's arbitrary. But to me, it's like, I'm still like a little bit overweight, but I wanted to maintain, because I've always struggled with my weight, and I had never been able to keep it off. Like, I would get down to a goal weight and then like start gaining back immediately. So I thought, well, I'm going to try this. I'm going to just see if I can keep it off. And so during maintenance that first time, my window was all over the place. I was like, how strict do I need to be at this point? Like, because this is for the rest of my life. So I found I could be really loosey-goosey. There were days where I would do OMAD. There were days where I would do like a 16.8. There were days where I did no fasting at all. And I just was trying to see, like, am I going to keep it off? And I found that I could. And so that's when I started this YouTube channel. And so once I started the channel, I was like, oh, I'm like 4 pounds overweight. So I need to like lose that weight. I need to like be down at like 154 at least, because I have a channel about weight loss, which I disagree with myself about now, but back then I did feel that way. So I started losing weight again. I went back to doing OMAD 6 days a week, cheat day on Sunday, walking 6 miles every day, being really consistent again. And like I said, it came off about 1/3 of a pound a week. Now, since then, so what have I been doing since then? I've found for myself, I really enjoy OMAD a lot, especially when I'm trying to write, because I will otherwise procrastinate with eating, by eating, not procrastinating on eating. I've never been bad about that, but like things, everything can get in your way of writing if you let it. So I find OMAD is really helpful with that. But there have been times where my life has been a bit different, and I have just used the wonderful flexibility of intermittent fasting to do that with. So like there was a time in the past where it was like a 16.8 really worked better. There were other times where it was like just doing like a 12-hour fast was what I was doing. And so these days though, my life has calmed down a lot more, and I generally lately, I would say for the past month or so, or actually no, the past several months, I've been doing just 1 meal a day. Again, simple, easy, and I'm the most productive during that time. So no real so I should clarify, because I think everybody kind of uses OMAD a little bit differently depending on who you're talking to. So when I say 1 meal a day, I mean literally 1 meal a day. I mean, I will fast all day, and then I will sit down and I will eat my meal, whatever that meal is, and I will sit there and eat until I get full. And then when I stand up from the table, I'm done. Like, it's not it's not like, oh, I'm going to eat for an hour, or, there's no window. If I was doing that, I would say I'm doing a 23-1. Like, I like to try to be precise with that when I'm talking to people about what I'm doing. Oh, Tom, thank you for the super chat. So nice of you. That's so generous. So that is what I'm doing. Tom said, thank you again for the super useful tips and consistent motivation. I'm coming up on 6 months of 16-8, eating better and exercising, feeling awesome. Keep up the excellent work. Well, thank you, Tom. And you keep up the great work too. It sounds like it's going really well for you. So that's very exciting. Let's see. Next question. Oh, Con is joining us from Southern Ireland. Oh, Connor. That's awesome. I would love to visit Ireland. It's on my list of places I would love to see before I die. Let's see. Vam or Vam, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, says, I've watched your channel for 4 years. Thanks to, you've lost 66 pounds in 9 months. That's fantastic. Congratulations. That is great. Let's see. Okay, he goes on to say, I decided to drop some more. My body is in keto mode and I follow OMAD. Does that mean I'm going to lose weight again? Let's see. Okay, so here's what I would say. Your body will lose weight if you're consuming less than you're burning. So even if you're eating nothing but meat, like total carnivore, you can gain weight. I watched a video, because so many people will comment, on my channel. I don't look at YouTube comments, by the way. I should preface this with saying I don't look at YouTube comments. Occasionally I'll go in there. They let you sort and see that, like, if people are just asking questions. And so sometimes I'll go pull those for these lives just in case we need some other questions. But I don't do that. I do that I stay out of the comment section for my own mental health. However, before I stayed out of the comment section, so many people would be like, "Oh, well, you got to go carnivore, because then if you go carnivore, you can't gain weight, basically." But I watched some videos of guys who totally disproved that. Like, they just said, "Look, I'm gonna basically overeat only on meat, and you're gonna see that I'm gonna gain weight." And I think this one guy gained like 28 pounds, and it makes sense, because ultimately your body, like, if you give your body excess calories on a consistent basis, the scale's gonna go up. You're going to gain weight. So Vam, just because you're eating keto, let's say, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to lose weight. The thing a lot of people find is that by, say, eating only meat, it's more satiating, so they feel full when they've eaten fewer calories. So, but all other things being equal, it's just a matter of, like, calories. Eating too many calories, you're going to gain. Eating just the right amount of calories, you're going to maintain. Eating too few calories, you're going to lose. Okay, let's see. Foxbod asked, is your OMAD a single plate or maybe 1 hour eating? Okay, yeah, so like I said, it's one meal. However, it's definitely more than one plate. I suppose there have been times where it's only been one plate, but generally speaking, it's like a couple of platefuls usually. I don't have a strict rule, and that's the hard, I guess one of the hard parts of, like, communicating. What are you doing? Well, I ate a plateful of food. Well, it also depends on, like, how big is your plate. I eat on a, oh gosh, I've forgotten what it measures. I did a whole video, I think, about plate size, but it's not the big dinner plate. It's like it's called a luncheon plate, fiesta-ware luncheon plate. So it's a smaller plate, but I will, fill it up and eat until I feel full. So there are some meals where it's like, maybe one big plate full of food would be enough. But then there are other meals where it's like several helpings will be the right amount. And it's just trial and error. And it's, watching what the scale does. Like, okay, I ate this amount. And then, how's my weight doing? And if my weight is trending up, it's like, okay, I've been eating too much, so I need to, just eat less at the meal. But that does not mean that I have like a set rule. I've never had a set rule for myself about like no going back for seconds or like only one piece of cake, like just eating whatever I wanted and then stopping when full. That was the big rule. Let's see. Rana or Raina, probably Raina. Hi Kayla, I'm Raina. Well, thank you for your kind comments. That you're from Egypt. That's really cool. I would love to go to Egypt too. There's so many places in the world I would love to go. Abby E says, "What do you say is the normal amount of pounds to lose per week again? Is it 1 pound per week?" That's what I say. I say 1 pound a week. I say that's actually pretty aggressive. And here's why I say that. Well, let me qualify this. So it really depends on where you are starting out with your weight. And it also depends on your own body chemistry, metabolism, all that stuff. If you're starting out and you are obese or very overweight, so the high end, like let's just say the BMI, high end of overweight on BMI, I think 1 pound a week is a reasonable thing to really aim for. But here's the thing, and then as you get down towards like the normal BMI, I think you'll find your weight loss slows down. It's just a thing that I've seen happen to so many people. A lot of people that I've read about or talk about like how once you get like down toward the normal BMI, it's just your body. I think it's just natural. Your body's like, you're good here. Like you don't need to lose more body fat. You're all right. That's my own personal opinion. However, and it takes a lot of discipline. At least for myself, my experience was I had to be very disciplined, meaning I stuck to my plan very consistently in order to lose that pound per week. Here's the tricky part. Even if you have a lot of weight to lose, let's say you are obese, like I started out being obese, you have a lot of changes to make, like, and that's hard. Like, so the difficulty of changing your behavior around food makes it so that your consistency might not be there at first. Consistency is something most of us have to really work on to get to that point. So it can be really frustrating because like you're trying to change and the scale's not moving down very fast, but it's because, the consistency isn't there yet. And so I would say focus on consistency first. Don't focus too much on like the number, like how fast you're losing. Just focus on being consistent with your plan and know that the results will eventually come. That's my advice. I know like when in 2015, that was when I like February of that year, I got on the scale for the first time in years and years. Like I got tagged in these Facebook photos in March of 2014, and I didn't recognize myself. I was like, what? Like, that's not me. That's not what I look like, but it was. And so like for a year, I was trying to lose weight, not really doing anything, just really wanting to lose weight. And I finally got on the scale in 2015, February 2015. And I was at 222 pounds. And so at that moment, I was like, well, I've got to get all this weight off, like, and fast. And so I set a goal for myself to lose 5 pounds a week because like I need to lose, I knew I needed to lose probably at least 50 pounds. I was like a few months I'll be down to, I knew that wasn't probably my goal weight, but I was like, I'll be done with the bulk of it and I'll just be getting, some last pounds off. And it just didn't happen that way. I mean, 5 pounds a week was just completely not reasonable. I'm not saying people haven't done it. People do that. But the level of difficulty that brings on and it's really not sustainable, generally speaking, to be losing weight that fast. At least that's what I found. And I couldn't even lose the 5 pounds a week. Like, I mean, I was killing myself at the gym. I mean, really working out hard. But I think it was because I was working out so hard. My appetite, of course, just went through the roof. So I'm feeling like, well, I'm just eating the right amount of food and I'm not losing, hardly any weight. I lost 15 pounds that year. I actually lost 20, but I hurt my back in the middle of that year, and I could only walk, and I was just like really frustrated, quitting, not being consistent. And so my weight started to go back up. So by the end of that year, I was like at 205. So 205, 207, I think it was 207. But anyway, so I had to learn 5 pounds a week was not not a good goal. Like I needed to be more realistic. And when I look back, I was like, when I'm actually sticking to intermittent fasting, I'm losing about a pound. Like every week that I was like really consistent with it, it was about a pound a week. It was just that first year I was not happy with a pound a week. And so at the beginning of 2016, I was like, okay, if I could lose a pound a week, after a year, I would have lost 50 pounds. And after seeing my performance from the previous year, that I had only lost 15 pounds, I was like, okay, I'm gonna focus on trying to lose a pound a week, and that worked out so much better because I was able to do it. I was able to stick with it. I felt good, and I was making progress, slow and steady progress. So, all right, hopefully that answers your question. Let's see. Elizabeth Long, I'm entering menopause and I have been doing intermittent fasting for about 3 weeks and I've lost almost 5 pounds. All right, congratulations. Do you have any advice for menopausal women? I'm not yet one, so I don't really. I will say, I think I can apply some of the lessons I've learned, and so hopefully it might help people who are menopausal, because I do know from just being around women who are menopausal and kind of knowing those types of changes that happen. There are emotional changes that happen, and emotion can be so tightly coupled to eating. Like it was something that I didn't understand about myself at first. Like when I was obese, I had no idea how often I was just eating for comfort because I was stressed out and that kind of thing. And I know that menopause can do that, can bring on, stress or anxiety. And so I would say, just be aware of that and really be attentive to like when you're eating, making sure you're in a good place, emotionally. And if you are finding that quite often you're upset and you're like hungry, feeling hungry and going to eat because maybe you're upset, talking it out with people, loved ones and things like that. But also know that, I've talked to plenty of women who have lost weight while they're menopausal and they're doing intermittent fasting. Obviously, you're having success, but it can be a mental thing with people. They can think, well, I'm menopausal, so therefore I'm not going to be able to lose weight. And that self-fulfilling kind of prophecy thing starts to kick in. So yeah, I would say just be mindful of your emotional state and how that might affect your eating. And I would also imagine, although I don't know from experience, that your hormonal changes may also increase your appetite and things like that. So I think that's where weighing consistently, I weigh every day and I keep track of my 7-day average. I still do that to this day. And that helps keep me just in check. It's really easy for me to gain weight. Like I can pack the pounds on. It takes them a long time to go away, but if I let it, if I'm not being attentive to it, they can come back on quickly. So that's what I would say. Continue to track and just be aware of your emotional state. So hopefully that helps you. Raina says, can you tell us about the journaling you write every morning that helped you to achieve your goal? Is it limited only to your weight goal, or do you simply write about your day? Well, my journaling has been, I got consistent with that, I believe, like towards the end of my weight loss journey, if I remember correctly. I'll have to go back and look. I remember not long ago, I was going back through my old journals because I keep them all. And I was thinking, wow, I was really not consistently journaling until later than I had remembered. But I do find it helpful to journal every morning. So what my journaling looks like and has looked like for many years at this point, I write down an inspirational quote of some type, and then I write down at least 3 things I'm grateful for. Starting the day with gratitude, that gets me in the right mental space. I also write down 3 ways to make today great. And then I write down my goals. So my goals, I still have a maintenance goal. My goal is to maintain in the 140s. Okay, so I write that down. I usually write down my single day weight next to that, just as like a visual reminder, like here's where you want to be and here's where you're at right now. And then I write down my other goals too. Like, so one of my goals is to read a book a week. I've been doing that since 2015. And I'll write down like, am I ahead or behind or whatever. And I'll write down any other goals I have. Like one of mine is to like write every day, Monday through Saturday. So I write that down, walking 6 miles a day, that kind of a thing. And so that, and then I also, this is something that I came to later. Oh, and that was based on like the 5-minute journal. I didn't have an actual 5-minute journal you can buy them on Amazon, but I just buy blank inside journals and write down those things every day. And then I write down notes, which I have found to be very helpful. Like when at the end of every year, I go back and I reread my journal for that year, and then I jot down kind of an end of the year recap so that I can kind of see the big things that happen, any kind of like major struggles for that year, or big stressful things that happen, like a death in the family, something like that. Just to kind of help me realize, like at a glance, like, okay, here's what was going on during this year. And so, which has helped me to understand myself a lot better. And so that is what I do. But my notes section, I found when rereading my journals, that was the most helpful thing. I mean, I think it's very important to write down what I'm grateful for and how to make today great. But the notes were helpful because it kind of gave me a better idea of like what was going on in my life, what was on my mind, and that kind of a thing. I also found it really helpful, and I encourage anyone if you're having trouble at any time with your weight, like the scale's not moving and that kind of thing, just writing down like everything that might be bothering me right now, like what's going on. And sometimes just by doing that, you may think, oh, well, my life's not too hectic right now. But when you start like writing down all the different things, like all these little things that are piling up on you, it can give you clarity. So I highly recommend journaling to everyone, whether you're done losing weight or not. It's great for goal setting and achievement and keeping track of those things. So, hello, Mikhail or Michael from Sweden. That's awesome. I would love to go to Sweden too. Let's see. Raina asked, do you think that you could lose the same weight sticking to OMAD without the 6 miles walk? Yes, I do think so. Well, this is always a difficult question to really answer because, okay, so when it comes down to it, I believe it's all about the intermittent fasting. As far as like what is actually taking the weight off your body, it is eating the correct amount of food. And it's a lot easier to eat the correct amount of food than it is to try to burn the excess calories off. So like if you're consistently overeating but then trying to burn those off, that I think that's a recipe for disaster. I tried to do that in 2015. That was really my mindset. I'm just like, I don't really think it's important like what I'm eating or how much I'm eating or anything. I'm just going to work out really hard at the gym. I'm going to do CrossFit and that's going to like burn all the calories. But so you do burn calories by walking. However, walking for 6 miles does deplete your body of calories, and so it most likely increases your appetite. So it can kind of have a canceling out effect. I think the way the 6 mile walk really helped me with weight loss was the mental health benefits from it. In other words, stress relief, of giving myself something to do rather than sit around and worry or be anxious or whatever. Instead of going to the cabinet and eating a snack, I would go out and get more walking in, getting my steps in. So, I mean, because so many times, I would think to myself like, oh, I want, I want a snack. But then I would think, well, right now I need to get my steps in. I haven't finished that. Well, I go get, my steps in, and then I would realize afterwards, like, oh, I wasn't even hungry. Like I was bored or stressed or whatever the thing was. So over time, I really started to see how important the walking was for the weight loss because it was keeping me consistent with intermittent fasting. So if I hadn't done the 6 mile walking, perhaps I wouldn't have been so consistent with intermittent fasting. So in that way, I think it was very important. But as for just from a perspective of, could I have done it without it? Yes, as long as I would have somehow figured out how to be consistent with intermittent fasting, if that makes sense. Let's see. So many good questions. Thank you guys. Hey, Carissa. Oh, and also, hey to Joe, if he's joining us. He's in Japan, and he said that he wouldn't be able to join us on the live because it would be 1 a.m. where he's at. So, so if you're still watching this, Joe, thanks for watching the replay. And also, that's something I should mention, like, I'm always curious to know when is a good time. Like I pick, kind of midweek at noon, generally speaking, for these lives. I do them once a month. I've been thinking about increasing the frequency a little bit, but I don't know if that would be too much. So if in the chat you'd like to, tell me, like, do you think once a month that's good? Would more frequently be more helpful, or even like time of day, if something different would be more convenient? Let me know. Okay, let's see. John Boston asked, did you do any extended fasting in regards to OMAD? If I do that, I cannot eat much if I want to see consistent weight loss. Let's see. Okay, so extended fasting, as far as for weight loss, OMAD was the max for me. Like I was like, I didn't want to do anything more than OMAD, because I have 3 kids and a husband, and I really, really love family supper. Like that's a big deal to me. It's very important. We sit down at the table, no TV, no screen, no distractions. We sit there and we eat together and we talk. And I just like the idea of like not eating while everybody else is eating. That just didn't appeal to me. So I was like, okay, OMAD is my max. That being said, I have done 2 5-day fasts. Like, I don't know, I think they were like a year or 2 apart. But I did those for, I think, spiritual benefits and the possible cancer prevention benefits I had read about. It was intriguing to me. The idea was like that 5 days of fasting kind of like resets your immune system and stuff like that. So I did 2 of those, and it was a very interesting experience both times. Lots of things I learned on those, but I didn't do it for weight loss. I actually intentionally waited until I got down to as low as I wanted to go, and I was like, because if I had been higher than that, I was like, I don't want to get into that kind of mindset of like, well, it doesn't really matter if I gain 20 pounds because I can just go on extended fast and get that off. Like I wanted it to be, I lost the weight in a sustainable way. That was just my own personal preference. So, okay, there you go. So okay, yeah. Let's see, next question. Yes. Oh, well, that's really good, Abby. Like, congratulations on your success so far. 10 pounds, like the first 10 pounds, I mean, that's, the first 10 pounds are really, the first pound is really hard. And like keeping that first pound, and then like 10 pounds, it's like, yeah, that's when like some of that confidence starts to build. Like, all right, yeah, this isn't like an accident. I'm making stuff happen. So that's real good. Quarter Moon Songs asked, do you have days of TMAD? I struggle with OMAD. 2 meals seems to agree with me. I seem to just maintain. How might I make TMAD work? Okay, so TMAD can totally work, and that's something I hope that I always make clear with people, is like OMAD was something that just worked with my personality. I don't really recommend it like, oh, like everyone should eat OMAD. I think it's a weird thing, like like so many people, it wouldn't work for them just on like a social life kind of thing. Like, if you're around people all the time and they're going out for lunch and like you want to be a part of that, like it can be awkward. And so I think TMAD works really well because, for one thing, a lot of people skip breakfast anyway. And so TMAD can really work. But if you're not losing weight with TMAD, so basically all you have to do is say, okay, I'm eating too much at these 2 meals. And I know, like, I just want to say, like, I get it. If you're sitting there thinking, I'm not eating too much. Like, I don't feel like I'm eating very much at all. The thing is, calories just add up so fast. When I finally just told myself, okay, if the scale's going up or if it's not moving down, I'm eating too much. I'm eating too much for the goal that I've set for myself. So I need to eat less. I need to figure out how to eat less. So how do you eat less? Because I don't count calories. I did count calories for like a brief period of time during 2015. And I made myself crazy over it. Like, I was like, I started out, just like, okay, I'm just going to put the food I'm eating into my Fitbit app. I'm just going to log my food. And then I was going by the calorie burn and everything. And I was like, based on their calculations, I should be losing a lot of weight. But I wasn't losing any weight at all. And so then I decided, like, okay, I don't know what's going on. So I'm going to start weighing and measuring all of my food, and because maybe I'm like putting like that portion that I thought was a quarter cup of cheese, it was really half a cup, and so I started like weighing and measuring everything out, and I was it was making me just crazy, and the scale was like not moving down like I wanted it to. So I said, I'm never going to count calories again. So I haven't counted calories since what was I think it was sometime during like September of 2015. But the point is, you don't have to count calories in order to like lose weight, and even if the calories are the problem, you don't have to count them. You just have to kind of like look at your food and say, okay, I need to eat less than I normally do. Like, just decrease it just by a little bit. Most of the time that will be enough to move the needle, because if you're at that point right now where you're maintaining, then it means that just by decreasing the quantity of food just a little bit, you can lose weight. So I would say, like, one thing I would really recommend before that, though, would be make sure that when you're eating, you are not distracted. So, like, make a rule for yourself: no TV, no screens, no reading, nothing else. Like, when you are eating, no multitasking. You can't multitask anyway. Like, multitasking is a myth. Like, if you are trying to multitask, you're stopping one thing, then you're switching your attention. It's context switching constantly. So, no multitasking. Just sit down with your food, focus on the food, eat the food, and then do your next task. And that might help you move the needle too. So that's what I would say. So really focus on the meals. No snacking in between the two meals. That'd be another thing. I have to remember that we all need to be working from the same definition of what is TOMAD. TOMAD would be like, you have a meal, and then no eating, and then another meal, and then no eating until your first meal of the next day. Okay. All right. Let's see. Next question. Oh, yeah, John, you were talking about the interviews with Jim Caldwell and Joe Holman. Yeah, and they're both great. I wonder what Joe's up to. I haven't talked to him in a while. And actually, Jim, I did an update interview with him. Gosh, that's probably been a couple of years at this point. His story, I love Jim's story, and he has a YouTube channel, but the last time I checked in on it, it was like he hadn't posted in a while. So I don't know if he's taking a break, but I'm glad you enjoyed those. I am always on the lookout for people to interview on here. It's sometimes just hard to find people who want to share their story, and occasionally I do find some people, though, and I hesitate to really encourage people who don't already have a YouTube channel, who were talking about intermittent fasting already, to do these, because I mean, I've had some people they'll do the interview, and then I had comments enabled on the channel just by default, and there would be like really mean comments sometimes, and then of course, the people who were interviewed would see those, and I tried to make sure I was moderating the comments and everything, but I just don't want to be the reason why somebody is like fails at weight loss, you know what I mean? So and it can really increase the pressure on your weight loss journey once you make it public. I know that from experience. So it's something that I try to carefully approach people about, and that kind of thing. Okay, enough said about that. Let's see. see, Elizabeth Long, yeah, the Happy Scale app, that's a great one to mention. Like, so I average my weights, I do my 7-day average, and Happy Scale, I believe, is one that will do it. Yeah, you say it does it automatically. The Fitbit app will do your weekly 7-day average. So like at the end of the week, it'll show like what was your 7-day average. I like to have the running 7-day average, and that's why I use my spreadsheet for that. But I do log my daily weights just into an app called Weight Tracker. It's by Minster Media, but it doesn't do any kind of averaging at this point, though. Like, I generally know, like, and I'm not trying to lose weight, I'm just trying to maintain. So as long as my weight is somewhere in the 140s, then I know it's like, okay, I'm where I want to be. So it takes less preciseness at this point for me. Let's see, Catherine Gay, you're in your 10th week and it hasn't been easy, but you're walking 3 miles a day and you're 65. That's awesome, Catherine. That 3 miles a day. And it, weight loss isn't easy. Like there's so many moving parts to it. Like that's why I encourage people to make your plan as easy as possible, because even when you have an easy plan, it's still like you can get frustrated and you can get, discouraged because scale's not moving down, and just life is happening all around you, and you're trying to like navigate birthday parties and different things. And so it's just a lot. And so trying to make your plan as easy as possible so that you can stick with it over time, I think is important. Let's see. Did you walk, Raina asked, did you walk all the 6 miles in the morning, or did you divide it like 3 miles in the morning and 3 miles in the evening? I did it all different ways. I would say in the beginning, those early days, it was the end of 2016, the end of 2015, after I'd hurt my back, I was like trying to get in the habit of walking consistently. And I would generally walk early in the morning and then late at night. Eventually I got to the point where I was like, I was walking inside my house though. And once I started walking inside my house, I would do like just my steps throughout the day. So I'd wake up and maybe I'd get like 1,000 in, and then I would do some stuff around the house, and then I'd do, 2,000 or 3,000 more. And then, I would just like work them in throughout the day. I've taken it all different ways throughout the years. Like sometimes, like when we were RVing, a lot of times I would go out first thing in the morning and I would get all of them in before it got hot because I was walking outside. These days, I generally, I wake up and after I've done my morning routine, the kids go with me on a walk, and that walk takes about 45 minutes or so. And so I've gotten about 4,500 steps, maybe a little bit more sometimes, depending on the route we take. And so then I come back in, I'll write some more, and then I'll usually go for another long walk to get the rest of them in. Like an hour, another hour and 15, 20 minutes. It takes me about 2 hours to do the walking, because I walk at a slow pace, about 3 miles per hour. So, but there are different days, and so there are some days there where it's like, well, I missed my morning walk for whatever reason, and then because I had a dentist appointment, let's say, and so then it's like, well, I'll get some in right now, and then I'll get some in the evening. It just depends, and my rule has always been, my Fitbit, or in my case my Zaruru, just needs to say 14,000 steps by the end of the day. So whether that means I got them in just incidentally by doing a lot of house cleaning that day, which that'd be a lot of house cleaning to get 6 miles in, but or if it was like one dedicated walk at the very end of the day, or 2 walks split up, it doesn't really matter to me as long as I've hit my goal for the day. Let's see here. Next question. Nona Grace, it's so good to see you. Hi. she's been around for a while on these on this channel. Hope you're doing well. Let's see here. Raina said you started at OMAD and walking 3.5 miles a day, lost 6 pounds in 4 weeks, which was great, but now I have an exam and need to eat when studying. So I started to gain slowly what I lost. Do you have any advice, simply because I can't do intermittent fasting with studying? Okay. So I wonder if you're experiencing the same thing I have experienced. So I have noticed that when I am writing, so I write, like I've written these books. I should show these. My husband will yell at me if he's always like, why don't we tell people about your book? These 2 books I've written about intermittent fasting, The Laid Back Guide to Intermittent Fasting, and then Overcoming Weight Loss Obstacles, which is really more about the hard parts of weight loss, the mindset stuff, what to do like during, plateaus, things like that, but all based on my experience. And then so I've written those, but I also write fiction books, and I don't have that one laying around here anyway, but this is called Escape from Olszek's Castle. But the point is, when I am writing, I feel hungry, and I at first thought it must be because my brain's working so hard. I must be like burning a lot of calories. And I had convinced myself of this, because I really do. I get literally like hungry after I've had like a lot of creativity. Then it's like, I feel like I want to eat. And so, but what I started to notice for myself was, the hunger increased a lot more, especially as I approached like the end of a book, like where I'm really having to think about, how to do these things. And so I would eat, and I remember the scale would start to go up, and I would be like, but I'm only eating, I felt like by that point, like, I know how to do this. Like, I know the right amount to eat, but I felt like I was eating. And what I would do when I was writing, because I was maintaining, I was like, well, I don't need to do OMAD. I can just do, a window, and I'll just, do a window. Or I have the freedom, I have the right to not fast. And so, but the scale would start to go up. So what I found for myself was, a lot of times that was more stress than it was like calorie burn, like where I need more calories or something like that. I even looked it up, because I was like, I bet it's true though. I bet like doing creative things really burns a lot of calories because your brain's working so hard. Unfortunately, everything I read said no, it is just probably your stress. So, but Raina, like if you really are like, maybe you can't concentrate, because that might be a thing. You're having trouble concentrating because you are hungry. And so what I would say is, don't eat while you're studying. So in other words, like if you need to eat because like you're studying really hard and you're like, I need to eat something, then put away your books, like get into like an uncluttered space, sit down at a table, not in front of the TV, like no like trying to multitask, just sit down and then really focus on the food, really focus on like what you're eating, and are you feeling full, and then do that, and stop when you're full. And so that, I think that will help you, because then, you don't have to be focusing on like a window or doing intermittent fasting, because I get it. I mean, everybody's different. Like my husband, he does not do well with intermittent fasting. He is like a thin guy and has never had a weight problem, but occasionally he has, to be in solidarity with me, or because like we were in Lent recently, and so doing one meal a day, he gets shaky legs, like he gets kind of grouchy, he can't focus as well. So I totally get, like, not everybody is built like I am. Like I feel good, except for, when I'm writing, that can sneak up on me, like I was talking about. But so everybody's different. So you have to find what works for you. So if you find like, okay, studying and intermittent fasting doesn't mix for me, then, you could maybe try doing intermittent fasting on those days where you're not having to study a lot, or, or again, just like say, okay, I'm not doing any intermittent fasting, because look, at the end of the day, intermittent fasting is not the thing that's going to make you lose weight. What's going to make you lose weight is that you're eating the right amount of food in order to lose weight. It's just that intermittent fasting, for me and for a lot of people, it helps them eat the right amount of food, because you're restricting the time that you can consume the food in. So it's just easier to eat the right amount. But anyway, so I would say just keep at it, keep figuring it, like experiment with some stuff, see what works for you. Really focus on the food. Let's see. M. Reed. Oh, thank you very much for this the super chat. That was so kind of you. Very generous. Let's see. Next, Wendy. Thank you so much for being so real. Well, I try, like, I really try, and I have tried from the get-go to act as though I don't have a YouTube channel and a podcast about all this stuff. Like, I try to, in my day-to-day life, forget that I have those things and just act normal so that, like, I can give, like realistic advice. You know, there's a thing that could certainly happen, and I hope it doesn't happen, but I mean, I'm just like, I'm aware of it, that, you know, like, well, if you have this video or this channel about intermittent fasting, well, then that's why you're still doing intermittent fasting. If you didn't have that, you wouldn't be doing it anymore, you know, like, but I have taken breaks from this channel in the past just to make sure, like, what would I still do intermittent fasting? And yeah, I do. Like, I found that I really do enjoy it, even when I'm not making videos about it. Let's see. But thanks for watching. 2 or 3 years. That's awesome. Let's see. Oh, thanks, Donna. Let's see. Michelle asked, Michelle Debundo? Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. How many calories do you available in a day? Maybe you meant consume. That might have been an autocorrect. Been doing intermittent fasting for 8/16 for 5 weeks and lost like 2 or 3 pounds. Very frustrated at the speed of weight loss. Okay, so I get it. You want it to be faster. Everybody always wants it to be faster. It's really like, no matter what rate you're losing at, it'd be like, but what if I could just lose a little bit faster, right? And I was so, like I said, I was really impatient in the beginning. I was like, 5 pounds a week or I'm failing. I mean, and I really did. I felt like those weeks where I would lose a pound, I was like, you are a failure. I almost didn't even start this YouTube channel because I thought, but I only lost a pound a week. Like, that's not fast enough. People don't want to hear that. That you know, like, who's going to want to do this if the reality is it's a pound a week? So I almost didn't even start this channel because of that. But I thought, well, maybe it's a really common thing. Like, maybe weight loss is a lot slower than we're led to believe, because so much of the information out there is, you know, people talking about theory, or, you know, they you know, are doing really extreme things, and maybe they're able to, you know, get the weight off initially, but they're not really able to keep it off for the long haul. So that's why I started the channel. But I get it. It's hard. But you are losing weight, first of all. I don't know, because you haven't said, like, was it that you lost 2 or 3 pounds initially and then it's just not, the scale's not been going down, or did you have you just been consistently losing weight and you've lost 3 pounds at the end of 5 weeks? Because that's actually good. I mean, like, I'm saying congratulations to you for losing 3 pounds over 5 weeks. That's, you know, like, that's a victory. If you can just celebrate every win and say, hey, it's coming down, you know, like, let's say it took you a week to lose a half a pound. Like, let's say it's just, you know, that's slow, for the rest of the time. Well, at the end of a year, you'll be down 25 pounds. At the end of 2 years, you'll be down 50 pounds. At the end of 3 years, you'll be down 75 pounds. I don't know how much weight you have to lose, but it is coming off. So I would just say, like, try to enjoy the journey and try not to get in a hurry. For myself and for so many people, when you get in a hurry, that's when you start to just do things that are not sustainable. And then maybe, yeah, you get the weight off, but then it's like, then what do you do? Because you don't really know how to eat and how much you can eat and everything to keep that weight off. Like, when you're doing really extreme things, eventually, you know, you want to go back to, you know, having a less restrictive kind of life. So I would encourage you to just hang in there. And just you know, if the pounds just need to go off slowly, then it's okay. Forgive and Love says it's amazing how much we choose to eat for a mental state change. We must keep training away from this. That is very true. and it's good at its job. I mean, that's the thing that's so hard, is like, it will change your mood so many times. It will like do a good job of, you're upset right now, have a cookie, you feel a lot better. At least you feel better, like in the short term, until you're like, oh, but now I'm going to gain weight, or whatever the thing is. It's good. Comfort food does comfort, and that's the tricky part, because it can become so ingrained in you, like, okay, I feel bad, now I'm going to eat, and now I feel better. So, and it can really reinforce things. So, but learning how to say, okay, I feel bad right now, so I could go for a walk and I'll feel better. And so many times now that, like, that is my go-to. It's like, if I'm feeling stressed, it's like, I need to go for a walk. Like, I just, like, I'm finally getting to that point where that's my kind of default. But that's been 5 years of trying to, or more. Let's see, no, 7. Yeah, that's like 7 years. So after 7 years, I'm finally getting to that point where maybe my default is more towards, you should go for a walk right now, instead of you should eat food right now. So, but when you think about how long, like, I mean, I was overweight or struggling with my weight for the first 28 years of my life. Well, I mean, maybe from the time I was 5 or 6. So, 20 something years. And if you're thinking about how often you're maybe doing that, day in, day out, that's a lot of pathways in your brain that have been trained. Like, here's what I do. This, if I'm stressed, this is what I do. And so it can be, it can be difficult to change your patterns. But it can be done. Let's see. So Michelle, sorry, you asked, how many calories do you eat during a day? That's a great question. I don't know the answer to it. I mean, like, let's say, I really don't know. And that's the thing, like, I eat until I'm full. And I'm trying to think of, like, a meal that I could just tell you off the top of my head. I wouldn't know the calorie counts. I would imagine it's probably between, well, obviously, I mean, this isn't going to be very helpful. I was going to say it's probably between 1,500 and 2,000 calories a day. But that's about what I need, apparently. I would say, like, what would be helpful is you can put your, your weight and your height into and your age and your sex into a calculator, calorie calculator. It'll tell you what's your basic like calorie needs, and then based on your activity, about how many. I will say this though, there's this tendency that we want to, like, oh, I'm very active, but really being like very active, it will say that you need a lot more calories than you need, maybe. So, and plus another thing with that is everybody's metabolism is slightly different. And then another thing on top of that is that unless you are like weighing and measuring your food, it can be very easy to underestimate your calorie intake, or underestimate your serving sizes, like like a quarter cup of cheese. I remember, because I was like, I love cheese, but a quarter cup of cheese is not much cheese at all, but that is the serving size. Like shredded cheese, quarter cup is, however many calories, and that can just so quickly add up. So it can be really easy to underestimate how much you're eating, and to overestimate how much you really need, how much you're burning. So, but I don't know. And again, because it kind of drives me crazy too. If I try to like count up things, at one point I was like, well, maybe I should try counting my calories like for a week to tell people like how many calories I'm consuming. And it drove me so, like, I was like, I can't do it because it was making me change my behavior. Because I was like, well, I mean, I would really put more mayonnaise on my sandwich, but I'm having to count these calories. And I thought, this isn't helpful, because now I'm changing my behavior. It's called the Hawthorne effect, I believe, where like if you're studying something, once the subject knows they're being observed, they change their behavior. That happens. So I can't tell you how many calories I eat. I can tell you that, let's see. Okay, here's a meal that I know that I eat. Sally's Baking Addiction, she has a recipe for pizza, homemade pizza. I make that recipe, and I will eat a half of that pizza. as my OMAD. And plus I'm having like usually about 3 cups of coffee a day with half and half in them. Those coffees probably have about 60 to 80 calories of coffee. So if you want to do that math, that's one example. Although sometimes that pepperoni, the pizza might have pepperoni on it, or or sausage and pepperoni, and so it really depends. Sorry that I can't be more helpful, but I do know that I must be consuming about the right amount of calories. So yeah. Let's see, Raina, does waking up at 4 a.m. improve or impact the speed of losing weight? And if you did, what's your tips for how to wake up early? Have a husband who will wake you up. That is, I am very dependent on him to help me get up in the morning, and I'm sometimes not very good at getting up, even when he shakes me awake or whatever. Sometimes I'll sleep in. I think this morning I woke up at 5, but and I've gone through different phases of life. Like there was one time. Let's see. Oh, it's like 1 o'clock. We've been here for an hour. I'll answer this question, maybe 1 or 2 more, and then we'll get out of here. But there was a time when I was doing OMAD where I was like, I didn't seem to require very much sleep. Like, 4 hours a night or something like that. And I felt good. Like, it was weird. Like, I would wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning, and then I would like read for a little while, and I'd go back to sleep for a little while. But then my sleep schedule has evened out. The reason I like to get up early is because I have kids, and if I can get up early, I can get a lot done, especially writing, while they're still asleep, and there's no interruption. The house is quiet, and I can concentrate. And once the kids are up, there's lots of interruptions. Like even if they're behaving really well, there's just interruptions and stuff. But I found if I woke up early, then I could get this chunk of productivity in. I could do my morning routine. Like I wake up, I read the Bible, I journal, I pray. All these things that otherwise, if I wake up later in the day and like my kids are already up, then my whole morning is like thrown off, and it's really hard to like work all those things back in. But if I get up early, it's just easier to kind of like set the day, and then by the time they wake up, then we can go on our walk and all that stuff, and it just works out better. And so how does that relate to weight loss? Well, then my day is calmer. Like I've started out the day on a really good note, and I've done these things, got my head in the right place, and and the day runs more smoothly, which means there's less stress, which means when I do sit down to eat, I'm not stressed out and trying to eat. I'm I've had a good day so far, and so in that way, I think it helps with weight loss. But if you are waking up early and you're so tired because you're not getting enough sleep, then that's not good, because you're going to be a lot more likely to overeat. If I get tired, like if I'm like really tired because I'm not sleeping well, because I'm, maybe there's something going on and I'm just like really stressed about something, then it's a lot easier to overeat. It just is. It's just harder to stop, even if you're full, in my experience, if you're tired, or to just kind of like not really be paying attention to what you're eating, or if you're, what I mean by that is like how much you're eating, because you're just tired and your mind's just not there. So I would say, get enough sleep. Make sure that you're sleeping plenty so that you can be productive during the day, and that's more important than getting up at 4 a.m. specifically. Okay. Also do 5 hours a week at the gym. Can't figure out what to adjust. Let's see, Michelle. I would say, and I can't remember if you've said, Michelle, but and if you may not feel comfortable, but I'm just going to say this, because I don't want to ask you, something that you don't want to necessarily ask in the, or put in the chat, but do you have weight that you really need to lose? Some women get it in their head that they need to lose a lot of weight, and they're at a perfectly normal weight. Body dysmorphia is a thing. Like just being unrealistic with expectations, because Hollywood and all the movie stars and everything, they put forth this image of women that is, quite frankly, unhealthy. Like if you were to get down to those weights, it can be really even dangerous for your health. So so I would also recommend, put your height and weight in the BMI calculator and just see where you're at. If you don't yet know that, I mean, maybe you do, and and if you have a lot of weight to lose, then again, be patient with yourself. You're doing an 18.6, so usually a 16.8 is a good window. Most people find that they can lose weight on that, but you can still eat too many calories. I mean, you can eat too many calories on OMAD even. Like if you sit down and you eat 3,000 calories at your OMAD, well, then you're going to start gaining weight. So so I would say really focus on just continue to be consistent. You are losing weight, but you might be kind of stressing yourself out, because you're like, I'm 5 hours at the gym every week, and like I'm doing this, and just try to relax and don't rush your results. Okay, so hopefully that helps you. Oh, you guys, thank you so much for all of your kind comments. Okay, let's see. All right, there's like 2 more questions. All right, Meg, you're going to have the last question, but I'll answer yours too, Raina, sorry. You said, can you make a video about your morning routine? I did. I wonder if I can quickly find that. And I will put the link. There we go. There we go. I'm gonna put the link in the chat for the morning routine. And that one I did a couple of years ago, but that one I think is still pretty close to what I do these days. All right. Now, oh, hey Darlene, thanks for joining us. So good to see you. Another one of those people who's been here for years. Okay. Meg says, what do you say about having a semi-flexible eating window? I've been doing a noon to 8 outer window and a 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. inner window. That way I'll always be doing at least a 16-hour fast. Okay. Thank you for this question. It's a really good question. I think that can work really well as long as it's working for you. So intermittent fasting, the great thing about intermittent fasting is that you can be so flexible with it. And as long as you're having results, that flexibility doesn't cause a problem. Because it's like, I mean, if you learn about yourself, like, hey, as long as I've got like a 16-hour window, then I'm still losing weight. So it doesn't, so sometimes it's like 16, maybe sometimes it's 15, but other times it's like 19, and sometimes it's, 18 or 17. That flexibility, if you like it and it's like working, go for it. The problem, where flexibility can cause a problem is when people are already struggling with intermittent fasting, like they're struggling to lose weight and they're being flexible, and because of that flexibility, they really aren't clear on exactly what they're doing. So because they might say, well, I kind of feel like I'm doing a 16-8, but if you go back and you look at, like, okay, well, what'd you do this day? What'd you do this day? What'd you do this day? It's like, oh, well, I actually didn't do intermittent fasting that day. That was, an off day for whatever reason. And well, I didn't, it was like a 14-hour window then, and then, the next day it was like, oh, well, I ate early, so really it wasn't, 16-8 there. And so then what you can find is like, oh, well, maybe that's the problem, is that there's just no consistency there. And so they've not really tried a 16-8 yet. They've just not been consistent. So that, I think, is the thing to be aware of. Be flexible with intermittent fasting as long as it's not interfering with your results. Like that I think that's one of the coolest things about intermittent fasting really is that you can be like really laid back about it and be like, I'm doing, you know, like you said, you kind of like have this inner window and outer window, which I've never heard it put that way, but I like that, where, you know, you have this kind of, you have like a set thing that you're doing, but there's some flexibility, and flexibility can be really helpful with long-term sustainability, which is really the name of the game. So, okay, well, you guys, thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to put, let's see, I should put this link in here. Laid Back Guide to Intermittent Fasting, if you'd like to get that book. And oh, and I should say thank you so much to everyone who has reviewed the book on Amazon. I really appreciate that. That helps the book get, you know, noticed by the algorithm or whatever, and other people can then find the book. I appreciate it. I appreciate everything. And for those of you who leave comments in the comment section on YouTube, I appreciate that too. I do love to see it here in the YouTube chat, but like I said, I don't go into the comment section on my actual videos. But I do appreciate the kind comments. I stay out of there for my own mental health and the ability to continue making videos. So thank you guys for joining me, and I will see you guys next time.